Currently, the United States is engaging in a new tug-of-war with the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, with the battlefield focusing on the deep sea. This represents a continuation of the never-ending struggle between the US and China following conflicts such as espionage, cognitive warfare, trade wars, technology wars, and the battle for influence in the Pacific Island nations and the African continent. The significance of deep-sea mining must first be addressed. According to estimates by the International Energy Agency, the demand for batteries needed for new energy will greatly increase, as will the demand for the minerals used to manufacture these batteries, especially for undersupplied nickel. The growing massive demand for rare metals by countries must be met by more than terrestrial mining. Therefore, deep-sea mining has become a viable alternative. Due to the huge wave of opposition from environmental organizations and the public, along with high mining costs and a lack of research, deep-sea mining has always been seen as having low viability. However, for the CCP, an authoritarian regime, as long as the returns are substantial enough, it can fully mobilize all resources and strength for mining, regardless of the high costs. If domestic public opposition arises, the CCP needs not to explain, ignoring minor resistance and suppressing significant dissent. If it encounters obstacles in international institutions, the CCP can eliminate interference through collusion or disregard it, as these are routine operations. The CCP is almost the only regime in the world that has the technical capability, sufficient financial resources, and can ignore opposition voices. By acquiring essential minerals for new energy batteries through deep-sea mining, it can not only propel its new energy vehicles into a larger share of the foreign market, but also exploit the vulnerabilities of many countries in securing certain critical minerals. This strategy undeniably paves the way for achieving greater global ambitions. The lure of benefits is too great, hence the CCP's efforts to become a frontrunner in the field of deep-sea mining. China's Ministry of Commerce first announced in August 2023 that it would restrict the export of 8 gallium products and 6 germanium products, taking early action in the field of critical metal materials. Deep-sea mining is regulated by the ISA, a United Nations body. Among the 31 deep-sea valuable metal exploration licenses issued by the ISA, the CCP has already obtained 5, accounting for 17% of the ISA's current total licenses. This means the CCP has acquired more seabed mining rights than any other country in the world. Currently, the CCP has the right to explore and subsequently mine valuable minerals such as cobalt, nickel, and copper in a deep-sea area outside its national jurisdiction, covering 238,000 square kilometers, equivalent to the size of New Zealand. The CCP is one of the largest financial contributors to the ISA and has signed a Memorandum of Understanding with the organization to establish a deep-sea joint training and research center in Qingdao, Shandong Province, to be operated by the State Oceanic Administration. Leveraging its growing influence in the ISA, the CCP can also pressure the organization to expedite the decision-making process, aiming for the adoption of mining regulations that would allow deep-sea mining to commence by 2025 or earlier. The CCP has even sent ships to the Pacific for research. The ISA began considering applications on July 9, 2023 to open international seabed mining, including materials crucial for the transition to green energy. As the ISA prepares to authorize mining rights, the CCP's preemptive actions have raised international alarm. Among them, the Norwegian government was the first in June 2023 to announce readiness to open up its seabed for mining. Planning to open part of its waters for commercial seabed mining activities, including deep-sea mining. The Norwegian parliament is set to debate this proposal in the fall of this year. The areas Norway plans to open are near the Arctic and the Greenland Sea, covering about 280,000 square kilometers. Studies have shown that the Norwegian continental shelf is rich in copper, cobalt, zinc, and rare earth minerals, essential materials for producing batteries, wind turbines, and more. As a major traditional energy producer, Norway possesses vast reserves of oil and natural gas. The development of seabed minerals would also make the country one of the world's major producers of rare minerals. Local estimates suggest it contains 38 million tons of copper, exceeding the global annual mining output. Norwegian authorities state that to ensure a smooth green transition for the country and Europe, it is necessary to expand mineral sources, especially since the production of some key minerals, such as rare earth elements, is controlled by a few countries like China. Although the Democratic Republic of the Congo accounts for 68% of the global cobalt supply, China has a greater dominance in this field, owning 8 of the 14 largest cobalt producers in Congo and producing 80% of the global cobalt chemical supply. The Russo-Ukrainian War and Russia's attempt to exploit Europe's dependence on natural gas have also alarmed Norway. Therefore, Norway's clear goal is to reduce dependence on countries like China. However, the Norwegian government faces pressure from environmentalists who are very angry and frustrated with Norway's plan, considering it irresponsible and a violation of national and international obligations. Just before the Norwegian government announced its plan to open its deep seas for mining, the United Nations passed an important treaty on June 19, 2023, aimed at protecting marine biodiversity, which includes restrictions on deep sea mining. This treaty, the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, is legally binding, with the current goal of protecting 30% of the oceans by 2030, though less than 1% of the high seas are currently protected. Norwegian Minister of Petroleum and Energy, Terje Asland, reiterated that the country would mine responsibly. In managing these deep-sea mineral resources, Norway aims to lead by example in sustainability and responsibility, more so than any other country, which is crucial for the global long-term energy transition. It is foreseeable that Norway will encounter significant challenges with its deep-sea mining plans. As a democratic and civilized country, it must proceed with caution. In contrast, the CCP has a greater ability to mobilize resources, uncontrolled ambition, and a willingness to act by any means necessary. Norway's deep-sea mining plan can be seen as a reflection of the limited awareness in the Western world in this field, primarily as a self-protective measure. If there is any power capable of curbing the CCP's global ambitions, it would have to come from the United States. Previously, lobbyists often emphasized the importance of seabed development for manufacturing new energy vehicle batteries in the US, hoping the government would approve mining. However, due to environmental concerns and the high costs mentioned above, such lobbying was often ignored, with lawmakers considering deep-sea mining impractical. Now, the situation has changed, and Norway's actions have provided a lesson for the United States. According to the Wall Street Journal, mining supporters have found a way to attract the attention of U.S. Congress members by linking deep-sea development to national security issues. Lobbyists emphasize that deep-sea mining could become an important source of cobalt for American weapons manufacturers, allowing them to avoid using Chinese suppliers and thereby reducing dependence on China for critical minerals. The Wall Street Journal quotes Samir Kapadia of the Fogel Group saying, quote, "Without question, the narrative around deep-sea mining has gone through an inflection point in that it has clearly found a home in the context of national security. As the CCP increases its provocations against the United States and its allies, posing a growing threat to the US, Washington has begun to focus on diversifying the supply chain of critical minerals to reduce dependence on China. How to achieve mineral independence has become an increasingly important issue for Congress members. Over the past year, congressional leaders have been meeting with deep-sea mining companies to discuss deep-sea mining issues, specifically aiming to process minerals off the U.S. coast. According to available information, the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, CCZ, in the eastern Central Pacific Ocean, located between Mexico and the state of Hawaii, covering 4 million square kilometers, is particularly rich in mineral deposits. The aggressive stance of the CCP has led to a significant shift in the attitude of U.S. lawmakers, from previously disregarding the necessity of lobbying for deep-sea mining to actively promoting deep-sea mining to counter the CCP. In December 2022, more than 30 Republican Congress members sent a letter to U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, pushing for deep-sea mining and mineral processing within the U.S. The lawmakers urged Austin to devise a plan to mitigate the impact of the CCP's attempts at seabed mining on U.S. national security. They call on the Department of Defense to pay attention to the extent of the CCP's control over the critical mineral industry. The lawmakers stated that the CCP dominates 85% to 95% of the global supply chain for most critical mineral resources, including nickel, cobalt, lithium, manganese, zinc, and other rare earth elements. The CCP also dominates the processing capacity to convert these raw materials into finished products, which are crucial for U.S. weapons systems. Quote, "We cannot afford to allow China to capture and exploit seabed resources, which the CCP has characterized as a new frontier for international competition. We must explore every avenue to strengthen our rare earth and critical mineral supply chains," the lawmakers said in the letter. "We cannot afford to cede another critical mineral resource to China. The United States, and specifically the Department of Defense, should be engaging with allies, partners, and industry to ensure that China does not seize unfettered control of deep-sea assets." In March 2023, Republican representatives Carol Miller and John Joyce introduced a bill named the, quote, "Responsible Use of Seafloor Resources Act" to Congress, aiming to promote the development and financing of U.S. deep-sea mining. The bill specifically proposes creating a processing industry within the U.S. and legalizing and regularizing deep-sea mining in international waters. Miller believes, quote, "The United States should not be beholden to China for critical minerals. The Responsible Use of Seafloor Resources Act will significantly reduce supply chain vulnerabilities and bolster American manufacturing and jobs while combating Chinese production of critical minerals." The bill states that investing in alternatives like deep-sea mining to diversify supplies is crucial to ensure the U.S. does not continue to overtly depend on China and other hostile countries. As the CCP's dominance over many critical mineral supply chains grows, along with its influence on deep-sea mining, the urgency for the U.S. to pursue deep-sea mining has also increased. The CCP's preemptive actions have already made the U.S. appear behind, such as meetings of the ISA members in Kingston, Jamaica, to discuss the final steps of mining rules to ultimately determine the final rules and regulations for deep-sea mining. Although the U.S. attended the meeting, it did not have a vote on the new regulations because it had not ratified the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. The U.S. only has observer status in the ISA, far less influential than the CCP, raising alarm and unease in the U.S. In February 2023, Kurt Campbell, then National Security Council Coordinator for the Indo-Pacific and now U.S. Deputy Secretary of State, stated at a Senate hearing that the U.S. should support the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. Democratic Senator Brian Schutz said at the same hearing that he thought, quote, "We can get the votes to ratify the convention as the political situation has changed because the U.S. has realized the urgent need to take collective action in competition with China." The Department of Defense, by the National Defense Authorization Act, has written a report reviewing the U.S.'s capacity to process minerals obtained from deep-sea mining domestically. The Pentagon stated that although there are no specific details about the report yet, they will continue to work closely with Congress to study how the Department of Defense can ensure the supply of critical minerals essential to the defense system. Manabrata Guha, a researcher of war theory at the University of New South Wales, stated that any country's deep-sea mining exploration plan could potentially be converted for military use. For example, if a company hands over topographic or thermal maps from exploration to the military, it could immediately serve a military purpose. The South China Sea is the most likely area for underwater military tension where sovereignty disputes are intensifying. As a pioneer in deep-sea mining exploration, coupled with its near-total sovereignty claims over the South China Sea, China's actions have led to increasingly tense relations with the US and Southeast Asian countries. The opening of deep-sea mining may turn the South China Sea into the most likely arena for underwater military contention. Manabrata Guha notes that if the US could further understand the seabed of the South China Sea, it would help counter China's expansion in the region and assist the US military in implementing a Swiss cheese model. This strategy involves exploiting potential holes in the opponent's underwater military defense constructions, similar to the holes in Swiss cheese, to counteract or strike. Additionally, by leveraging more advanced knowledge of the seabed, deliberately releasing false map information or thermal readings could serve as a weapon to disrupt the opponent's deep-sea strategy. We can wait and see the opening of international seabed mining operations. From this, it can be anticipated that mastery of the underwater world will be key for countries wishing to prevail in underwater military competition in the future. Seabed resources may become a fiercely contested domain. Nations with technological capability, economic strength, and maritime resources are eagerly testing the waters. Those lacking these conditions loudly voice environmental concerns, which may also serve as a pretext in the strategic game. Regardless, deep-sea mining is set to become a covert competition among nations, with an increasing number of countries stepping onto this new global stage. As for the competition between the US and China, this is yet another inevitable battlefield in a new major conflict that is beginning.